The thingly element, hold on, let me just quickly check. Okay. The thingly element is a consequence of an artistic attribution or contribution to the object. This thing, this thingly, we'll say that this is the thingly element. I mean, and Heidegger understands how vague the terminology is. I don't know what it translates, like, specifically in German, which I'm sure is amazing. But in English, the English translation, and it's a good press. Routledge is a great press. So, I mean, I'm sure they have, you know, tier 1 translators translating their stuff. I would imagine that thingly element is as ambiguous in German as it seems to be in English. I can't read German, so I wouldn't know what Heidegger originally, the tone or the feeling of a thingly element in German might mean. Or, you know, it probably produces concepts that I just don't have access to because I don't have the translation. I don't have access to the understanding of the term. This is where sort of linguistics really gets beautiful, right? Because I just don't have access to that. So shout out to people who can understand German and understand what Heidegger really meant by the thingly element at this point. But I would have imagined that to the average German reader, or even the advanced German reader coming across the term, the phrase, thingly element, they would have been as, well, that's rather ambiguous, right? I could be wrong because I don't really know what it translates to or what the significance it has in German, in the original language, right? So the thingly element is a consequence of an artistic attribution or contribution to the object. Rather obvious, the artist, to be technical now, the activity of the artist serves as the cause, the antecedent for the work. And we did that ad nauseam already. So here's a quote from Heidegger, which is important, which will lead us to a more conceptually dense image. This something else in the work, this is a direct quote from Heidegger, this something else in the work, the carving is in, the sculpture is in, the painting is in, and so on. The color is in, blah, 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 and so on. This something else in the work constitutes its artistic nature. The work makes public something other than itself. The work makes public something other than itself. It manifests something other. It is an allegory. The work manifests something other than what it is, functionally. That's what he means. He doesn't say that. This is a cup. This cup is filled with coffee. That's the end of that. I could transform this cup, though, if I was artistic enough. I can't think of what I could possibly do with this cup, but I could turn it into a flower, I guess, put a little stem, blah, 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 right? This cup, functionally, I have a functional relationship with this cup. It is here to serve my ends. Art isn't here to serve our ends, aside from sort of artistic appreciation and consumption, which really in itself isn't an end, right? Art exists, as we've seen, it coexists naturally with functional stuff. I manipulate functional stuff, but art, I don't have the same relationship with art. I cannot have the same relationship with art, because art affects me. It makes it public. There's a discourse now. There's that amazing piece that popped in my head, I forget the name of the piece, where there's a cross in a urinal. Like the crucifixion cross in a urinal. Or maybe it's in urine or something like that, and people went berserk. They hated the piece. But it makes public, and they also think, oh, how trivial, you know, that's just, you know, degradation of the religious community, blah, blah, blah. I don't know the name of it. I'm not that strong on pieces and artists and such. I just like to look at pretty things. Of course, I'm a man. But the idea... Please don't read between the lines. Oh, what an interesting lecture. There's so much truth to that. I totally lost my freaking train of thought. Oh, right, with the urinal and the cross, right? You know, it's not just to offend, right? It's to make public a discourse on the installment, what it is. What is this? Well, it's a means of conversation starting, right? It's a way of initiating new discourse, and it was very effective at doing that, right? There's many other things that it is, but I digress. Okay, so next image. Next image. I gotta self-regulate. While I'm in the zone. Number one. This is just conceptually, right? Heidegger doesn't present this. This is just conceptually me trying to make it even more clear. So this is a bit of ghetto philosophy here, but hopefully it makes it more clear. Let's say we just have the mere object in the world. The cup, the chair, some wood, a slab of stone, slab of marble, whatever. Then we have the artist and the artistic imagination. The artist sees something that doesn't currently exist in, as Heidegger says, in the object. His quote is, this something else, the thingly element, this something else is in the work. This something else in the work constitutes its artistic nature. So we need to, in a sense, put this here. Okay? This is the artistic imagination. Number 3. So, what does the artist do? The artist does precisely that. The artist introduces that thing into the world. It transforms the objective world and makes public something other than itself. The artist transforms the objective world and makes public something other than itself. Even if the performance is public, the act is a private act. This is an important point. This is not Heidegger. This is me. When I watch Rare Art's video, which I've watched a million times, of his construction of my piece, which also fit into my Occupy Wall Street series, because, I mean, it has implications all over the place, at many different levels. You can watch the video and you see him painting the piece, but he painted the piece in such a way that it was a really cool effect, because you could like see through his body while he was painting, and it was just absolutely infinite shout out to Rare Art, and I am going to link you as soon as I get back to the crib. Right, so you see, the construction of the piece was itself public. So the performance of painting it is public as art. The end product as work is public as art. But what's private is the contents of his mind as it manifests. You can never see that. You will never have access to that. You can watch me lecture. You can have the notes. What you will never have access to is the mechanisms in my mind that allow me to make sense of these notes. If I were to give you these notes and you were to try to reproduce my lecture, you wouldn't be able to do it. Similarly, I wouldn't be able to do it with you. I will never have content to the mechanisms in your mind which allow you to bring your thought into manifest existence. To bring your thoughts into manifest existence. Put an asterisk by this lecture. I'm not going to go into I'm not taking that train of thought any further. Number 4 then, we now have a reintegration of the object. This is all me, but it's all based on Heidegger. We have a reintegration of the object as a symbol. What used to be a mundane object in the world is no longer a mundane functional object in which I have a functional relationship, because the artist has imbued this mundane object with the thingly element which is now in the work of art, which is in the object and becomes the work of art. I now have an aesthetic relationship with this piece of art, with the work.